Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you've all seen part 1 of how to save the Crucible, and if you haven't, well, welcome anyway, I guess. I recommend you go and watch part 1 because, you know, it's some quality content there. The gameplay in the background today is a little bit of Rumble, followed by some max rank comp where I tried to absolutely inspire a nation using the Arbalest for the first time. Anyway, we're here to talk about the Crucible and how to save it. The Crucible is such an interesting PvP sandbox because there's so much going on at one time, considering it's a first-person shooter. You have guns that have abilities to think about, for example, the Crimson, that heals you on a kill. You have armor that gives you abilities, for example, the Karnstein armlets, that when you get a melee kill, you regenerate health. You have class abilities and different sets for each class, all giving slightly different benefits. Then you have armor mods and skills that allow you to buff those abilities even further. Now when you think about that, that's a lot to think about when you're going into an engagement with someone. In most first-person shooters, when going into engagement, you literally just have to think about what gun the opponent has and probably what perks they have before you decide, you know, in that split second, if it's going to be a favorable situation for you and if you really want to, you know, push through and engage with that person rather than, you know, backing off. Now in Destiny, you have to literally think about all that I've just mentioned above. Let's, for instance, give you an example. Let's say your teammate's engaging with another opponent. You think, yeah, it's going to be a 2v1. I'm going to jump in, but you jump in halfway through. The opponent then melees that teammate. They have the Karnstein armlets. Now they've got all their health back. And now all of a sudden, what you thought you were going to be cleaning up, you know, a half-health opponent, you're now fighting a full-health opponent. And basically, in that split second, you know, you had no real way of knowing that was going to happen. Even if you had looked prior to knowing that, for instance, one of the warlocks on the other team was running the Karnstein armlets. So let's say, for instance, there was like 3 warlocks. You might not necessarily know in a 6v6 game mode that that warlock there is the one that has the armlets on, because there's just so much going on, there's so much to keep track of, that it kind of becomes a bit unpredictable in a sense. It's literally impossible to keep track of everything when there's 6 people on a team. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing at all. You know, the chaos in the Crucible is what makes it special. It keeps us playing. Just look at literally year 1 of Destiny when it came out. You know, a lot of the player base left. I personally left the game because it was boring. It lost its spark. You know, Destiny is at its best when it is really chaotic, when things are very powerful and you can feel like you're playing in a unique way, putting on builds and putting things together, and Destiny's in a really good place for that right now. But the chaos is why a lot of people say that the game can't be competitive, air quotes. Maybe not in 6v6, but in 3v3, I definitely think there is a strong possibility that the game can be competitive. I think 6v6 is literally meant for the chaos. It's meant to be a casual, fun experience where you can go in there and have some fun and try out crazy things and have some ridiculous games. That is literally what 6v6 is meant for. But I have personally always thought that Destiny has played best in 3v3 game modes, because you only have to think about 3 angles, 3 supers, 3 grenades, 3 melee timers, 3 weapons and 3 perks. It's enough to keep track of, and it's still immensely engaging to play because the game is so dynamic. There's still a lot going on, but there's just enough going on that you can keep track of it. So you know that, for instance, one of the Titans has just used his grenade, so he's going to be probably about 30 seconds before it comes back. You know that the Hunter's just used his throwing knife, so his melee ability is on cooldown. So when you're going into these engagements, you're able to make more informed decisions, which basically leads the game to being sort of more manageable, but still very exciting. Now, in my opinion, the best 3v3 game mode is Skirmish. I literally feel like almost the Crucible plays best in the Skirmish game mode. For those of you that didn't play Destiny 1 and don't know what Skirmish is basically just 3v3 clash. And because the game plays so well on it, it literally baffles me that it's not in the game. Like, you have to go into a private match if you want to play it, and it sometimes comes around on weekly rotations, but I think it should be a staple of the game. Now, I'm going to go on to a little bit of a rant here, but I was literally speechless when I found out that Destiny 2 was going to have a competitive mode, but the game mode wasn't going to be 3v3 Skirmish. Now, all throughout Destiny 1, I played Destiny as competitively as you could. I competed in some tournaments, I played scrims all the time, private matches. You know, I was completely invested in that community. And every single tournament that was played was 3v3 Skirmish. Every single private match I ever played was 3v3 Skirmish. The most competitive way you could play Destiny was 3v3 Skirmish. So when I found out that Destiny was going to be launching with a competitive mode, and it wasn't 3v3 Skirmish, I didn't understand it, because you had streamers constantly playing 3v3 Skirmish the most competitive way you could. You had tournaments being streamed playing competitive Skirmish. And I just couldn't believe that Bungie has a community, a competitive Destiny community, there for them, showing them what they want, showing them what the competitive experience is and what it should look like, and yet when they give us the competitive experience, it isn't what we want. It just didn't make any sense to me personally, and I still don't understand it now. They've recently obviously reverted back to 3v3, which is a step in the right direction in my opinion, but the fact that it's survival, it's still, you know, hands up, the competitive experience now is a lot better than it was before, because I think 3v3 makes a big difference in the way they've done that, but the fact that you have to play survival, which is not that much me personally, and you know, an exciting game mode to play. You know, the most exciting, the most fun game mode to play is Clash, and 3v3 Clash is what competitive should be in my opinion, and I bet you the longevity of the people in the competitive place would be a lot more if it was 3v3 Clash, aka Skirmish. Me personally, it'd be all I play. If even after I got, you know, my pinnacle weapon for that season, sorry, I would still invest my time in 3v3 Skirmish because it's a fun game mode to play and it's the most competitive mode to play, whereas at the moment survival, it's not as fun to play, and the second I get my rewards, I basically leave it because it's just not as engaging to play as the other game modes. Like, even the most recent Destiny 2 tournaments have been 3v3 Skirmish. The most competitive way people are playing for money on the game is 3v3 Skirmish, but in the game itself, if you want to play it competitively, you can't play it the same way that you play it as a pro, or play it for money. It doesn't make any sense. It's like playing a sport, being a professional footballer, for instance, but you don't play football at training. It doesn't make any sense. You know, surely you would practice the same way that you play. Anyway, it still baffles me. Hopefully they make these changes. Now, if Bungie aren't going to make competitive Skirmish happen, please just bring back the game mode so people can play it, because I believe the game plays so well on it and it's such a nice way to play the game. I really hope they bring it back. Now, that pretty much covers that. In terms of rewards, you know, if you are a PvP predominantly only player, the rewards that you get are absolutely, you know, terrible compared to the PvE side of the game, and there's so many things that they could do here, just making it slightly easier to obtain pinnacle gear. But not just that, you know, the fact that there was no pinnacle weapon last season didn't give PvP players a lot of, you know, end game content for them. Definitely in Season of Dawn, I'm really hoping they bring one of them forward. Also, more titles. You know, you could throw in so many different PvP titles with different challenges and different ways to get them. Just give players, you know, another reason to keep on logging in and playing the game. Why don't they bring out a competitive armor set, maybe, for instance, where every time you hit legend, you get a different piece of the armor set guaranteed. So if you wanted to, for instance, hit legend multiple times in one season so you could earn more pieces of the armor, that was possible to do, and then all of a sudden, once you hit it 5 times, you'll have the full competitive armor set, and it'd look obviously very awesome. Give people to keep on playing the game and give them another reason to keep on playing the competitive game mode and keep that population full. And also, how about powerful gear drops, you know, when you start hitting the higher ranks of the game? Anyway, I don't want to sound like I'm ranting, because, you know, I really love this game, and I believe Destiny can be such a good game, and it just annoys me when they make decisions that don't really make sense in my mind. A lot of people, I imagine, are going to disagree with me on this. If you do, let me know in the comments down below. If you do agree with what I'm saying, let's start a discussion in the comments down below on how you can help fix the Crucible. I believe by making these changes that I've mentioned in this video and the previous video, the Crucible will be in a lot better state and will have a much fuller player base overall. But let's see what Season of Dawn brings, and let's see what changes they make. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, guys. If you did like the video, please consider giving it a like. If you want to see more content on my channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and have a great day.